Welcome to the Real On Parenting, where foolishness
Welcome
just
back.
does not
Welcome back.
stop.
It doesn't. It doesn't. But luckily, we can keep up with it. So it's what keeps us awake.
Absolutely. We are here for a new season of the Real On Parenting. I am Coach Kiana and my
And I'm therapist
co-host.
Danielle.
Yes,
Also,
therapist Danielle
OB.
is in the building. Listen, this season, we are so excited. We're going to tackle some really tough topics. We're also going to tackle you guys' emails. We got a couple of emails that came through. So we're really excited. We are absolutely representing
You can see her.
Brownstone Worldwide. Let's go.
Now let's tuck back in.
Yes. And our new, listen, I don't want to call it our new home. It might be called our new home, but CityScape, we gotta
Yes.
shout them out because we are definitely excited to be here on this podcast, this platform, this radio show. So yes, thank you for joining us on The Real On Parenting. So let's get started.
Jump right to it.
All right, you going or I'm going? I don't know.
So, no, I can go.
Okay.
So, I don't want to say the elephant in the room, but there's been much talk, and I would say by way of social media has really put a name and a focus on mental health. And as we all know what depression is. But what I feel that what social media puts out there is that depression looks a certain way. And it doesn't look the same way for everybody.
Okay, so before we start that, can you tell us what depression is? Because I think that that's another thing. I hear depression, I hear narcissist, and I'll just be like, because I got friends in the medical field, right? So I'll be like, that is not what this means. Just because that man don't want you at his house does not make him a narcissist. But so can we just define? We'll talk about narcissist a whole nother day. Can we just define depression?
Right. We need a couple episodes for that. But for depression, I mean, just with any mental illness, excuse me. But for depression, it will come down to, I will say, under the umbrella, if you will. There is not necessarily one symptom, and it's not necessarily one person. It's not one person, one thing, one situation when you're only around that person that you feel this way. It's something that is ongoing despite what's going on, despite life being good, despite life being bad. And that can be things very, very minor related to sleep. You find that you can't sleep, or you find that you're sleeping way more than your usual. The level of irritation for things that you notice that you're typically able to handle and manage, you're not. You're juggling the balls, and the balls are starting to fall. Listening to others speak, that takes a level of patience that you find that you don't have anymore for whatever reason.
I'm feeling attacked, but okay.
I'm just saying, because this is the part that I speak in regards to social media, that they show, or they focus on all the extreme things. So for those who are experiencing symptoms of depression, they feel that they don't have it because they're not in this extreme box. And it's also a way of, because also within that, I don't want to say it's acceptance of depressive symptoms, but acknowledging, okay, this is something that I'm experiencing, and maybe I should actually talk to someone about it. When you start feeling off for you, and like I said, in regards to that level of patience, being irritated to beyond belief, and it could be something very minor that didn't bother you whatsoever.
Right.
Not being able to retain your thoughts. You're in the middle of a sentence and you're like, what was I just saying? But it's not just once, and every once in a while, it becomes more frequent.
Here I thought my dementia was flaring up.
No. But it's, if you just think of your daily functioning, we need to eat. There's a drastic change in your appetite. You're finding that you really don't get hungry, and I'm putting quote unquote, because obviously our body is hungry and needs food, but you're not getting hungry, or you may take a couple of bites and you don't want any more. You're good. And there's a part of not wanting to do nothing at all. And that not wanting to do nothing really is that low energy, that low motivation. And when I say anything at all, it comes down to like daily functionality, things that need to be done on a daily basis to function and live as a human being. Hygiene, social engagement. We don't have to do it every day, but it is something that is frequent. We have responsibilities as adults, you know, sometimes for some people that is their motivation to keep going. So I also want to say that you may have responsibilities that is making you continue to do those things. However, it doesn't take away from the fact that one can still be experiencing depressive symptoms despite them taking care of the responsibilities. And then
I'm glad you said that. Go ahead.
Because at the end of the day, and let me explain this. Everybody's life circumstances, situations is different for their own unique experience.
Right.
So I don't want anyone comparing what they're going through, what they're feeling, what they're doing, what they're not doing to someone else, because that's not how it works. So it's not like, oh, they did it, so I'm not depressed. No. They are not in your body and you're not in theirs. So that's not how that works. But sometimes life presents itself to where it's all you and you have to do it. There is no other option. And actually that you being the only option is actually what's keeping you safe and okay, if you get what I'm saying.
Right. So, and I'm gonna circle back to that statement. I'm gonna circle back to that because I think a lot of women, are facing depression and we don't know it because we have to keep going because everything has to. Okay, so I have a question because you were talking about depression is not what it looks like on the extreme side, right? Because like there's this, somebody is, sad and in the corner under the covers, sitting in the closet, with a boulder in front of the door. That's not so much depression. And I know we get used to, being sad.
I won't say that it's not depression, but it's not, depression isn't this box the same way that we don't all learn the same. It's not solely that. It is a range.
Right. And I didn't mean to say it wasn't depression. I actually meant like that's not the all-inclusive part, right? Because I think that there's also overeating. Overeating is a sign of depression. Acting out is a sign of depression. Gossip, but we don't like to talk about that. Gossip is a sign of depression because when you are happy in yourself, you really are not speaking negatively about other people. If you're constantly gossiping, you kind of got to look at that and wonder, like, is that your sign
it's coming
of
from
depression?
A specific place.
Right.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I understand what you're saying, but I have to clarify on my end. But I get what you're saying. So
listen, you're the professional. Everybody know mine is professional-ish. Okay, I stay in the ish lane. Okay.
But I do want to just clarify. Gossiping. I mean, because we have many years across states, across professional fields. And so I don't want nobody trying to come for me because I'm not that therapist, okay? First and foremost. But let me just clarify.
She got somebody like me that got her back, so be careful.
I'm just clarifying that gossiping itself, it's not a clinical mental health symptom of depression. I'm just saying that to clarify.
I was just talking about signs that you might be depressed.
But you're speaking to a good thing because I don't want to say there's things that Black people do, but there's things that we do that are not healthy and are excused away depending on how the family deals with it or not deals with it.
Right.
And or are told to be identified as generational things or that's just them or that's just her.
And no, so before somebody comes for that statement where you say not just Black people, we speak as Black people from Black women experiences, right? And so we in our Black families, right? So, but we're not excluding anybody else. We are just specifically talking about our experiences. And since you said that, I think that again, people miss signs of children being abused because they're not sitting in a corner sad. Sometimes they're overly talkative. Sometimes they got an opinion on everything. They don't have to be having a tantrum or something like that. And let's be honest, at a certain age, tantrums are extremely healthy. They're part of the development process of kids, right? So if your kid has never had a tantrum, say that again.
I said it's not fun as a parent or guardian, but you are correct.
Right. And so when we're looking at, a kid that's never had a tantrum, that may be something to be looking into. You know what I'm saying? Because it's just not the normal growth of a child. And that's a whole nother. We talked about trauma parenting and how we like rule with that iron fist, right? We talked about that in last season. Right. But I think that those are things that we just have to be mindful of. We have to be conscious of, because our children are suffering because we suffered. And if we don't get help, it's just going to be a new generation of suffering. And people think, correct, well, if there's no sexual abuse, if there's no physical abuse, then a little cussing out doesn't hurt a 2-year-old. I disagree.
I disagree too. It's abuse. It doesn't matter what type. And abuse is abuse, and it has an emotional impact on
absolutely
someone. I don't care what type of abuse is. There's no comparative factor in regards to what type of abuse. It still is.
Absolutely. And we got to stop saying that, y'all.
Yeah. So with that, like you mentioned, yes, an increase in appetite. You look up and in the process, it's like, oh, I didn't gain an extra. I call it an extra hip. I really ain't got hips, but I'm just saying that's something I would say. I didn't gain it, and then it starts off being cute until it's no longer cute, and then you're having to buy bigger clothes, and your stomach's no longer, your body's not looking like
you can say it. Your stomach is no longer fitting into your pants. Go ahead, I'm listening. I've been there,
done that personally, because we all have our own individual things about ourselves. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So
right,
when you start notice just for you, and I would say at night when you're in bed and when your minds get to going, mm-hmm, go through those thoughts, and like I said, I don't want to say accept, but acknowledge what you're going through, acknowledge what you're experiencing. Mm-hmm. Is this something that pops up for you frequently than what it used to a couple of years ago? Is this a whole new thing altogether? And when it's very sporadic, it is very easy to kind of tuck it away and not worry about it and just forget about it, because it kind of goes away and then it pops up maybe 6 months later, or whatever the case may be. But mm-hmm, even then in itself is kind of like that's your body giving yourself that gentle warning. Ask for help, talk to somebody. That asking for help and talking to somebody doesn't necessarily at that time mean that it needs to be a licensed mental health professional, but I will say it needs to be somebody of sound mind. Okay.
Right. Because that friend, when you like, hey, he cheated, I'm feeling sad. That friend that automatically defaults to blowing up cars, that's not the one. That's not the sound mind.
That's not the friend. But it does need to be that support who is able to listen. I would say as Black women, we want to talk. We want to, girl, what he said and done it. And it's like, shut up. And respectfully, okay, just be quiet, because I need you to listen to what's going on with me. And it may be a whole bunch of jibber jabber, and it really may not make sense in that moment, but it is things that you need to get out. But I would say that is the time that it wouldn't necessarily require a licensed clinical therapist or a psychiatrist. When it gets to the point to where it is impacting just your daily functioning, you can't even really get it through the day. And when you're saying, the gossiping or the going off, I call it the chihuahua. When the chihuahua gets to going, chihuahuas don't be quiet. Despite how much you tell them to hush, you can do anything to them. And I ain't speaking abuse. Don't come. I'm just saying in general.
Right.
But they will not hush. They will not be quiet.
You can hug them. You can feed them. You can.
You can do all the things, right? And it's like nothing can regulate them, right? So when you find out for you that is what's going on, that is what you are presenting. When you have others that are saying, what's wrong with you? Oh, you're tripping. You know how we talk. Take that as signs as well that something's going on. And they may not necessarily know how to even help you or how to even tell you that there's something different about you, not in a negative way, but in a way that okay, you need some help outside of than what I can provide.
Right. Okay, so
I'm
Danielle.
right. So I was, because usually you got a question too. So I was like, make sure y'all pause because I can go on and on and on.
Because I got a question. Listen, you know me well.
Okay.
Because why don't we get help as women, as people, just as Black women? Like I think that there's so many stigmas, but I think it's more than the stigma, because when you need help, you really don't care who helps you, right? If I'm drowning,
I think when it gets to that point, so let's think about it. So in general, I don't know. And so I would say for those who are listening, if you've ever been in a situation where you actually were told that you're going to see a therapist, first of all, you are given the choice. Right. Whether that was related to our own children or children within our family, or there's some legal stuff going on and you need a mental health psychiatric evaluation. That sounds like you're crazy. Sometimes people are, don't get me wrong, but just more times than not, it wasn't our first step or our own initiative to say, let me try this therapy for myself. It was that negative connotation, like, okay, something's wrong with you. You did something wrong. You did something not right. There's something that you off your rocker. In here, talk to this therapist. And then when that therapist did come, they weren't Black.
Right.
They're every other nationality besides Black. So from my experience, from working with the county, don't try to look for me, but walking in those homes and seeing, I'm just saying, don't try, but seeing the looks on those caregivers, which usually was another aunt, usually the grandma, older aunt. You know how we have cousins we call uncle and auntie because of age, but seeing their face and seeing that the therapist that their child you're going to be working with was a Black person, they literally would sigh in relief.
Yes.
Because there was an aspect of being Black that they did not have to speak to. Because and I'm not saying that just because you're Black, we live the same life. I am not saying that whatsoever. But there are dynamics, there are certain contexts that we don't have to explain because we live it every day.
Absolutely. So, and I want to, right here, I want to make sure we're clear. Again, we're speaking from the perspective of Black women, not just as women in general. We're speaking, to our specific perspective. If we were white Caucasian women, I don't know that we would be like, hey, this Black therapist can relate to our life. You know what I mean? Like it's always helpful to have the representation that looks like you, hopefully even from a neighborhood. I know with my own medical, I can pick my doctor, there's a photo, but when it comes to the psychologist, there's no photo. And it's like, okay, I got to hope that this last name is reflective. And I got fooled because her last name was Williams.
So, but you know what I do? That's when I tell people, and this is such a side note, but if you're looking for a doctor or then whomever, Google is your best friend. Google will tell all your business. Google them, okay? Because they'll pull up. You're going to find a picture somewhere. But I'm just saying, but I do understand it. And I always get that information in regards to when you're looking for any type of medical professional, mental health, whatever it may be, Google, because for whatever reason, there may not always be a picture to be able to put a face to a name. And however,
but those licenses come with photos, right? Like the licenses have photos on for the most part.
It depends on the license. So no, that's not a default. Okay. Yes.
Now see there, but it's gonna make me look bad in front of all these people.
Just answering your question. But we learn something new every day. It's okay.
But when they be on social media and then they have, MFT or whatever, like there's a photo. I'm just saying.
So yes,
but maybe you don't come with the license.
Right. Correct.
If you're listening to us, I am rolling my eyes so hard. I can see the blockage stopping my hair from growing. That's how far my eyes roll back. All right, go ahead. Welcome to the Real Long Foolishness.
Too funny. but also, And this goes way back, and granted, don't quote me on none of this history, because obviously I wasn't born. Maybe we can have someone who could break down the history of, course, mental health, but
right,
mental health has come a long ways. Mental health is now seen more so in a positive light. It's not easily equated to something's wrong with you, or you attempted to harm yourself in some way, or you're crazy, which is why you have services or why you're seeking out therapy. Well, back in the day, it was, they locked you up in a room, and you was locked up in a room and being injected with medication. So, and then until you were deemed to be okay to be let out, not to talk to anybody, not to continue to actually have any actual treatment, that was all that was. So for anyone who was actually experiencing organic mental health diagnosis, they were basically screwed.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, and we, as Black people, we say this, we all have at least one. There's more than one, but we always have at least one, you know what I mean, family member that they're not running tight. So given just the history, and then what that transformed into in regards to, and I would just call it the system, the discrimination within the mental health system, that's a whole nother, girl, that ain't my book. That's for somebody else to write, and I'll just say y'all need to read the book. But it goes all the way back. So for anybody, even now, it is still difficult to say, I'm looking for a therapist. I have things going on. I don't even necessarily have to be feeling that I'm depressed, but I have a whole lot going on, and it's hard for me to handle. Yes. And being able to be vulnerable. We're not taught that. Right. We're not taught to talk about and say what you're actually feeling based on what you're experiencing. We're not given that space. I haven't been given that space to do that. And I'm speaking more for like 80s babies, okay? I can't speak for the new generation. I'm raising my daughter the total opposite. I know you are as well. My daughter, she'll tell you down to the T, okay? But that was something I had to learn for me. And it wasn't obviously purposely done, because this goes back to history. You do what you need to do, because that was the only thing to do. That was your option. You do it. Despite mental health. Your arm can be chopped off. Now, figuratively, obviously. But you still
but there is a mindset, like even with your arm, you need to be obedient. Like we know you're missing it, but you still got to be obedient.
Right. And then there's also that aspect is, if I speak and say what occurred, that would be disrespecting this person.
Right.
Who more than likely was a family member, a friend of the family,
and
someone that is well known. And right.
It's like, and you're telling the truth of what happened, and you get in trouble when you've been told to speak the truth your whole life. And here's this adult lying on you, about the situation, and you can't correct them. So you don't know, like, is this, like, it's so many mixed messages. But right here, I just want to take a moment and thank everybody. You guys have joined us. You're joining us, Coach Kiana and therapist Danielle, right here on The Real on Parenting. You can catch our show on CityScape on Tuesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Pacific. All right. So Danielle, real quick, can we talk about how we can help parents, like recognize the signs, asking for help, and how to move forward, right? Because a lot of people, particularly in our communities, can't even afford therapy, right? Aside from the negative impact, it's the pricing of therapy is out of our reach in a lot of cases, right? And that I think that's across the board. I don't think it's just particular to a specific group of people, but for the most part, people cannot afford therapy. Mm-hmm. Right. And so I know that you've talked about, recognizing the signs of depression and the sadness, the loss of interest in activities or food, or changes in appetite is what you said. You mentioned being tired. And so what's the next step? How do we ask for help?
Say it. And it can easily be, I don't even know what to say exactly. I just know I don't feel okay.
Right.
It can
Okay.
be as simple as that, because for each person, you may not know what's going on, but you know that you're not you. Others around you, I'm sure, know that you haven't been you. And you just say, I need help. I don't know what type of help. Because the thing is, somebody does know.
Right.
Or you just need to just hear somebody else say, you need to go to therapy.
Okay. And I was just gonna ask, like in talking to people and saying like, hey, can we talk about it? Can I get your support? And just listen and just listening, right? Not response, but
Right.
just listening as
Unless they
you.
ask, but yes.
So then what's the moving forward part?
Mhm. So let's say that you are talking to a friend and you have a good support for you. You have a good support for you, and but you notice that it's not enough. It's not that the support isn't doing their job. They're not understanding the assignment. No, they doing their job. However, how you're feeling, how you're thinking, it's not changing, and it's not helping. Then that would be it can be a couple of things. It can be you stating to your support, thank you for listening to me. I'm still feeling the same. It's not because you're doing anything wrong, but I think
Mhm.
this may be a bit bigger than what I realize. Um, and I would say for anyone listening, if you do have insurance, start off with your insurance. Um,
Right.
you can call, and I will say the number on the back of your card, but on your medical card, you can even go online. A lot of the insurances have updated websites, their website, to where they do have the mental health aspect. So different wording, because for whatever reason they call it something different. It could be called behavioral health services. It could be called mental health services. It could be
I'm
called
glad you said
psychiatry.
that.
Yeah, it can be called psychiatry. It can be called health and wellness. I'm trying to think of there's a couple more I can think off the top of my head, but look for something. If it says wellness, click on it. If it says well-being, click on it. So those are some of the wording in regards to what the insurance, the wording the insurance is used as a way to just be respectful. It can be a sensitive situation, and it's being mindful of not discounting. You know what I mean?
Right. So, okay, because you mentioned something earlier and you were saying that some of the signs of depression are like neglecting your personal hygiene, right? Which
Yeah,
made me think of, when you are depressed, you need to be prioritizing self-care. That does not necessarily mean getting your hair and nails done, right? I think we put a lot of investment in trying to look like we're okay instead of actually being okay, right? And
okay.
so that
Yes.
hygiene behind the scenes is something that having your hair and nails done is never going to do, because you could be walking around funky and pretty, right? But
Right.
in addition to the
Right is right.
hygiene, that self-esteem boost that you need, which could include the hair and nails, right? That self feeling good, looking good.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but when you're in that space where you don't even have an ability to enjoy your daily activities, how do we move forward in that? Like, I know prioritizing self-care, but like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
give us some more to that. Give us some more to that.
So yes, and to speak to that, yes, and so for whatever reason, we equate self care. We think of hair and nails. Self care is actually taking longer than a 5-minute shower. It can be for you because everybody has their own thing. For you, it can be incorporating that weekly nap. It can be so simple, but yet so much needed for just our bodily function. If you think of if you have children, when your baby was a baby and that schedule that you had them on, that's what we still need as an adult. I still feel they should still bring naps back because, man,
Listen,
I
I
think
got all
they're
my
probably gonna
hands
have to
up.
have separate rooms because you get older, you start growing extra noises in your throat because it's snoring, but but for people to sleep, but for you, it could be actually having quiet time for you. You may be doing 50 million things, and you may need 10 minutes of just being still and not talking. So hygiene that I'm referring to is shower, bath, even a bird bath, where soap and water is being applied to the body in the proper parts, in whatever that looks like for you, okay? Because everybody has their own way of doing things, okay? Brushing your teeth, that is daily. There's no variation to that. Combing your hair, I don't comb my hair when it's like this daily. However, I do maintain it as far as other in other ways. So the grooming aspect, for my mind is going back to when our children were little, and we really had to really be really spiffy with our time, because man, it wasn't we may have it, but we didn't know how long we had it. So so for someone who is struggling with just taking care of their typical daily necessities, set a timer, a notification on your phone. And whenever I say set notifications, it's not just one, it's at least 5 for that one. Because we're always going to be doing something. We're always going to be in the middle of doing something. And hopefully by that 3rd or 4th or 5th time that it went off, we'll say, okay, let me do it right now. Because it's went off 3 times. And it can be literally sit down. It's your time to be still.
Wow.
Each day,
I hadn't thought about that.
It may range because each day brings something different. Today may be a day where you can sit down for 30 minutes, but 2 days from now, you may have a minute to just be still while you're standing up, so it's really being realistic with yourself, with what you have and what your life consists of. But for someone who is in a place where it's not happening, they tried it, they just can't bring themselves to do it. Not that they don't want to do it, they just don't have it in them to do it. That is when you're having that conversation. And let me say 2 things. 1, if you have the space and the place to share this with a friend who would be like, okay, come on, get in the car and we're going down to the doctor's. Or, but that can be, and I'm out for those who can see me, or because that can be like, hold up, wait a minute, they about to take you in this room and come back. Just hold on.
We're not talking about commitment. We're talking about you being committed to a situation, like or to a facility. We're talking about just let's go talk to a mental health professional.
Yes, correct. Or that friend that will be able to sit by you and do the researching for you. What insurance do you have? Or let's look online. So if you have one of those people in your corner, say, okay, I think I need more help than this.
Yes.
And then if you don't have that support, or even if not even having the support, if you don't feel comfortable doing that, you can call your own insurance. They don't know you, not like that. But when I tell you, you are just a number, that indeed that's what you are. So you calling them, they are not going to remember that Sue then called in asking for therapy. They can care less. Okay. So, so you can call your insurance and ask, I would like to have therapy. What do I need to do that?
And I'm going to tell you, and then I did not want to do that. I did not want to do that. I knew that I was having anxiety on levels that were not normal for me, right? Like I've always been afraid of heights. So airplanes, and I have control issues. So airplanes have always been a double kryptonite for me, right? But when I realized that, I was like doing everything I could to avoid getting on a plane.
There you
go. It wasn't just I don't want to do it. But I'm gonna do it anyway. I'm gonna do it afraid. It was, oh my goodness, as soon as I booked this flight, even though it's 3 months away, I'm already anxious about it.
You're feeling it. Yeah.
And then it started showing up in the everyday things like driving, right? Like the heights, okay, but I've always been able to do the freeway overpass. That's never been an issue. Now that's an issue for me, right? Now driving at night is an issue for me. I'm only 44. And I remember my brother being like, look, we can't be having these problems in our 40s. Like we gotta be able to,
Right. Yes.
But even though I don't want to have the problem, I do. And so for me, I'm like, okay, I had to seek the help. And it's like, okay, I told my therapist, I was like, listen, I have somewhere I need to go in June. This was January. I was like, I have somewhere I need to go in June. It's in Atlanta, right? It was a business conference. I was like, and there's a couple of other places I want to go, but that's the first one. I was like, you got till June. Or no, actually, this was March. It was in January. We were in January, and the event was in March. I was like, and I gotta go because I done already paid these people. Fix me, right?
Right.
The closer we got, the less I was able to go. Right. And she was just like, okay, so I can't promise that we'll do. And so she was like, okay, I want you to just pack a bag and drive to the airport. Like, we're going to start there. Right. And it's just like that exposure therapy. Listen, when I tell you we in October and I ain't been, I ain't go nowhere yet. I didn't even pack the bag and go to the airport.
For those listening, I'm not laughing at her. I just
yes, she
know
is.
her, and I know the theatrics of how that actually went down. This is just the radio version, the podcast version of what she giving y'all. But okay.
I forgot I told you this story already. Yes, but the point is, like, I haven't even spoken to my therapist in about 4 months because things have been so busy, and it's not easy to talk to your therapist right away. That's another problem that I'm seeing.
That's a good point.
It might be 2 months. Who has 2 months to wait for an issue they need to talk about right now?
Yes.
That's another problem with the medical system. And so when you're in that situation and then you are noticing that your routine is off, right? Like you were saying, the prioritizing self-care, but then you're noticing that in your day-to-day life, your sleep is disturbed, and you do have those, difficulties concentrating, which I was like, my dementia is flaring up. Like, what is going on? Not that I have dementia. I wasn't trying to speak that into my life.
Diagnosis. Oh, you got no dementia.
I wasn't trying to speak it into my life, but like it's been a concern because of family history. So I was just like, Lord, please don't let this be the thing. But these are the things that, when you're experiencing a mental health, I won't say crisis, because I don't think that anxiety in all forms is a crisis, but it's the nagging.
But it's being impacted. Yeah,
right. It's that nagging every day. Impacted. And now you are feeling like this is more than what I can handle by myself. But because we have family members who have said, such and such saw a therapist, she crazy, while needing to see a therapist themselves, right? It's like
correct.
So it's layers on layers on layers. And I think that until we normalize getting the help we need, it may not be from a therapist, but a friend, like you said, of sound mind, someone we can speak to who can give good advice. But I don't think most of us have that. We have people we speak to that will listen, but I don't think that we have people who can help us through it. And that's where, and that's why we're doing this in two folds. Coach K is a life coach. You need a therapist, right? I've told people I'm a life coach. You need a therapist. Let me connect you, right? Because and the balance that we have on this show is good for that. It's the I can help you move forward, but you got to deal with whatever's causing this.
Right.
And a lot of times people go, oh, go talk to your pastor. Let them help you pray it away. A lot of people will say, you know what? You just need to put your daughter in a girls group, some kind of program for girls. And there's some great programs that will help kids come out of their shells. I love the ideas of Jack and Jill. Afro Unicorn Foundation has a brand new program that I think is great. Like, there's tons of things. Boys and Girls Club. You know what I'm saying? But sometimes it's way deeper than that.
Right. And you spoke to something that is very, very true. So, like, one, you don't necessarily have to jump to a friend or a supportive friend to therapy. Everybody's situation is different. You may have some life coaching. You may be going through some life transitions, or it may have already happened, and that life coach may be able to continue to assist and guide you through that. Not process. The processing is for therapy, but anyways, sometimes it doesn't have to jump to therapy. In life coaching, it is actually a really, really good, healthy support, because a life coach will indeed and should tell you when this is, with what you're experiencing, how you're functioning, if it falls more under the therapist umbrella. and need therapy, and they will connect you. They should. Let me know if I'm. They should be connecting you with
Absolutely.
aspects of a therapist. It doesn't mean it's going to work out, but they should be at least giving you some information on where you can look. So that's another, like, I guess you'll say, next actual step, if you will, if you're at a place where you feel, okay, let me just try something. Is there something before therapy, kind of thing?
Yes.
And with that, so then, Kiana, can you share, how does one seek out or find a life coach? What does that look like?
Okay, so first of all life coaches are not created equal.
Okay.
I said what I said. Okay.
Okay. We heard you loud and clear.
That being said, just because they came out of a famous, world-renowned program does not make them a good life coach. Okay. Just because, they spent $20,000 on the program that they went to does not make them a life coach. So when you're looking for a life coach, first of all, if you go to social media, everybody names say that they're a life coach.
Correct. Okay. Yes, that's why I'm asking you to speak on it. Okay.
Which is why I think that it's so important that therapists and people who work in mental health professional put their initials behind it, because
yes,
there are so many, everyone has a title these days. So you want to be mindful of that. So getting referrals to people, what you're going through and what is out there, right? When I'm doing parent coaching, whether it's moms or parents or like family coaching, usually people are referred to me. Very rarely is it someone who is like, hey, I saw your name in the directory, but you can look, there are directories. I'm sorry, I can't think of the name of it, but I'll put it like, in the notes or something. But there are directories. Also, as a life coach, there are other life coaches that I can refer you to, because everyone's not a good fit for me. So if your life coach is not in a network or doesn't have a network, you don't have to necessarily be a part of a membership, but if they don't have other coaches because they know that everyone is not their fit, that's another that's a red flag. I'm gonna tell you that. They should be able. And as a life coach, it's always great when there's a therapist who says, hey, you know what? We have dealt with your past trauma, and now that you're ready to move forward, here's a life coach that I know, right? I'm not gonna say don't pick one off of the internet, or social media, because they may be really, really wonderful. But who else is going to them? Say that again.
Right. I said just do your due diligence, do your research.
Yes, because there's no cookie cutter way, because there's no license attached to it. There's also, if I'm just being completely honest, there is no industry standard for being a life coach yet. Right? So anyone can take a program, but are they able to implement it? What program did they do? Was it a good program? When you speak to them, do you feel like they can help you move forward? Are you disconnected? Are they disconnected? All of those things are important.
Yeah. So, but thank you for that, because I don't think a lot of people really knew that. They just assumed and take it for face value that someone says they're their coach, that they are a coach and their coach, quote unquote. And it's like,
so when I did my life coaching certification, I ended up going back and doing the master life coaching certification with them. But then I also did breakthrough parenting certificate. I became a certified instructor for that, right? To help me with the coaching of parents. I've been working with teenagers all my life, like literally since I was like 11. Mm-hmm. Right. So before I even was a teenager, I've been working with teenagers. Like, no, seriously, like at 11, what was it? The World Literacy Crusade and Genesis, like I was there. So
I remember
those type, right? See, we've known each other a long time. So so all of those things, I wasn't just going, oh, I need this certification. I was going, and then what else? Like, what else is going to help me? Right. Exactly. So when I say I'm a self-mastery coach, I mean it, right? when I say I'm a teen coach, I mean it, because I've done the programs to make sure that I could do it. And aside from the programs that I took, I started implementing and working with teenagers. So I got my own testimonials. That's what you're looking for when you're looking for a life coach. Who have they actually helped? What results are their clients getting?
Thank you for sharing that information.
Thank you.
I will be sending you more referrals. So.
Listen, honey, please do.
Because they're about to. So, not in a bad way, in a good way, obviously. I don't do
But right there, I want to say, you guys, get ready because therapist Danielle and I will be dropping our parent coaching program. So get ready for that. In addition to the work that I do with teens, in addition to the work she does with families with therapy, we are going to be dropping something together. And we can't release it just yet. Give us a little bit of time to fine tune it and make sure that it flows well. Because one thing I know for sure, we have busy schedules, so we want to make sure that when we undertake it, we can make sure that we are actually there and doing all the work, and that we are making sure that you guys are served properly. But get ready. Get ready. You can send us an email to therealonparenting@gmail.com to inquire about that parent coaching. And you can also send us a letter. We love letters. We're going to address some of these letters this season. So
we are.
And I don't think we're going to start with the crazy ones, right? We'll address some of them. So therealonparenting@gmail.com is where you want to reach us. We always look at our emails. You'll get a response from one or both of us. And I think that's a wrap for this show. Welcome back.
Yes, I missed it, just to say that. I did.
Me too. And you know what? I think we should do a part 2, because I think we can help parents specifically who have teens who are struggling with depression.
Yes.
Can we do that? We can.
We will.
We can do that. All right. I'm Coach Kiana.
And I'm therapist Danielle.
All right. And we are The Real On Parents, and we'll see you guys.